Have you ever felt that things sometimes are not as clear as you'd like them to be? That maybe you cannot see the pathway towards your future? But what if you were given tools to learn how to invoke the aid of an infinite power? Well, stay with me as I share the words of Uriel Buchanan in his book titled The Mind's Attainment, where he offers laws and methods for obtaining individual happiness and success. If you found me at this video, there are no coincidences. And if you'd like to catch up on the previous chapters of this book, please visit my book playlist and to our Fortune community. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being a part of my journey here as I can be a part of yours. Welcome back. Before moving on to the next chapter, I want to share the different highlights that I gathered from the previous two videos. One was when the author was trying to describe the qualities of this all ever-pervading infinite source. He described it as a presence that is felt by at all times, and it's never absent from the heart where hope dwells. He also added that wherever there is truth and love, that's where you're going to find it there. And he followed that by saying that there the invisible presence abides, and no harm will come to those who walk in the shadow of its radiance. No fatality can lurk in their hearts, no misfortune attend their destiny. That reminded me of how religion and mysticism somehow are speaking the same topic with different words. Because in Psalm 23, where it says that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, somewhere it adds that though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. They both have the same type of feeling, the same that there is an indwelling inner infinite strength and power that we can hold on to that will get us through the darkness as long as we focus on the light. And how do we do that? By keeping that love in our heart. And also the other point, which revealed again how these different sources, whether it's religion, science, or mysticism, and as they said, the pathway is the pathway. As long as you find it, you can be guided as long as there's love and truth. Uriel Buchanan revealed another secret, an age-old secret that is even in the Bible. And he stated that from the unseen, you may rest assured that you will receive the force needed to accomplish your plan or purpose. He added to that the supreme power is always at the command of one who places his mind in a childlike attitude to receive and to have faith in the existence that power will bring to us what we have asked for. Those that are very friendly with the Bible will know that in Matthew 18, chapter 18, verse 1 through 3, where Jesus is quoted as saying, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Isn't that beautiful? So simple. And that's what it is with these mystic teachings and these spiritual teachings. It really has been in our face the whole time, but it is a progress and a discipline to choose the higher, to choose the beauty, and to know that it is our inheritance and our heritage. Very perfect as we move on to chapter 19, a lesson from nature. In the long ago, when the earth was young, the creative impulse charged with one purpose and will, and longing to manifest the slumbering energies in the harmony and beauty of diversified forms, crystallized into an acorn. Working in silence, it slowly attracted the invisible forces from the dark surroundings of its lodging place in the barren ground. The hot sun poured down its fierce rays and warmed the earth's surface day after day, until the germ of life in the acorn unclosed the shell of its limitation and projected itself above the inert materials of its anchorage, winning for itself a place in the light and wooing the breeze. In the peace of the dawn, the tiny structure was kissed by a dewdrop, which awoke within it the first gleam of consciousness. Its desire became greater than ever to reach up and attain. A ray of sunlight came down a golden pathway from the vaulted skies, played gently around it, and found lodgment in its yearning heart. The acorn had received no token of its purpose, but the plant was grateful for the dewdrop and the sunbeam which brought the happiness and joy it craved. As it grew high in stature in the air and sunlight, it began to put forth rootlets to hold it steadfast in its place, that it might be able to withstand the storms and vicissitudes of time. But it soon perceived that its environment was unsuited to harmonious and rapid unfoldment. The inexorable law of nature had placed it in the cleft of a rock, with no room for expansion and growth. Then it ripened that the cruelty of fate had placed it there, feeling that it would fail to fulfill the purpose and design of the power which gave it birth. What am I? Why am I here? Is my existence to be objectless? Were the questions it asked of the breeze and the sunbeams that played around it. But no answer came in response to its questioning. Its life grew desolate, and its frail leaves drooped, for the dewdrops failed in their efforts to quench the thirst of its greater needs, and the sunbeams began to dry up the sap within it. But one day the skies and the sunlight were obscured by dark clouds from which fell crystal raindrops, bringing refreshment and life to the fragile and fading plant. A tremor of joy passed through its being once more. A new sensation of energy and resistless power was aroused within it. The roots went deeper, the body grew larger and taller, the branches spread out, and the miracle of life was complete. A tiny acorn, concealed in the cleft of a rock, had been transformed by the power of creative law into a giant oak, destined to withstand the destructive elements from century to century. And if the life in the growing tree can rend asunder the rock which impedes its progress, is it to be wondered at that man, with his powers and capabilities, should be able to accomplish even greater things than this, in his efforts to attain a gloriously rounded and perfect manhood? Where can be found a more perfect symbol of man's beginning and development than that of a tree? And how many lessons of patience and strength might be learned from these inanimate symbols which grow up around about us? The man who stands at the threshold of life, awaiting the time when a way will be opened to him for achievement in some chosen pursuit, oftentimes becomes vexed and disheartened because of delay. Obstacles confront one at every step, and all the forces of nature at times seem to conspire to thwart the accomplishment of one's purpose and aims. But the very obstacles man meets on the journey are simply the hills he must climb before he can peacefully rest on the summit which towers above the cloud and the storm. The opposing forces man meets and masters, the suffering and sorrow he endures, as well as the love and the joy that are his, come to him as lessons to be learned, experiences to be gained, which compel the roots of his consciousness to delve more deeply into the soil of truth. Man should not feel discouraged if destiny seems slow in the fulfillment of the heart's deep yearnings, but should learn from the monarch of the forest the secret it holds for him. Slowly and invisibly, it draws by the law of accretion the nourishment needed to sustain and increase its power. Again and again, it is stripped of its foliage, and its limbs are twisted and scarred by the winds, the hail, and the lightning. Yet the tree grows larger with the march of years, until at last it stands alone in its strength and its majesty, bidding defiance to the destructive forces which often beat fiercely against it. Deep down, in the innermost depths of all beings, there has been implanted the invisible germ of that mysterious principle called life. The perpetuity of our individual selfhood is maintained by an eternal process of living and dying, assimilating and consuming, building and destroying. The outer dies daily and the inner becomes manifest. All the part is a flow of life which unites the generations of humanity without a break, a vast, unbroken stream which has flowed from the primeval and eternal source of the universe. The creative tide that has evolved humanity has never been lost to its source, and its eternal flow is propelled by the heart-throbs of the universal nature. There is a presence which broods in eternal silence upon white snow of frozen summits, over the fertile valleys and upon the face of the deep. Its power is manifested in the wind and lightning and the rushing waters. in the fair groves and gardens and mossed fountains, and in the vast desert where solitude dwells, men feel this power and take courage. Like the tide of a fathomless sea, whose shores are planets and suns, it flows forever over the hills and wastes of earth and floods the hearts of the human race with the balm and benediction of its love. We cannot fathom the mystery of this light and this guidance, yet nearer than the brain throb and the heart pulse, in the inmost sanctuary where consciousness itself is enthroned, broods that mystical power which pervades and enfolds us. And those who willingly abide in its tranquil presence place themselves under the sheltering care of the Almighty. Silently as the approach of dawn, the supreme power draws near to the one who is watchful and breathes softly the message of gladness and peace. In wordless communion, question the oracles of life and measure, if you can, the potentialities of your being. In the hush of that peaceful hour, brought face to face with the silent guardian which keeps faithful account of your wanderings, the touch of a divine fire will quicken the dull brain, and the sluggish heart will become responsive to an energy which lifts man out of the confines of the physical and draws him close to the infinite source. End of chapter 19. I'm flipping the page to the next chapter, 20, Aspiration. The things which the mind dwells on the most become a reality. If your mind dwells on the dark side of things, you will attract all that is morbid and unnatural. If you entertain negative thoughts, if you lack faith in your power to do a thing, you will fail in every effort. You are making environments for yourself in the future by the thoughts you are holding most in mind. If you are living now in imagination in better surroundings, if you are sending out the silent demand for improved conditions, for greater attainments, you are creating forces which will draw to you the better things. To aspire to make the best use of your talents will give an ever-increasing capacity for attainment. As you approach nearer to the infinite mind, you will have more faith in yourself and will receive fresh inspiration and courage. When you put your dependence and trust in the supreme power, you will attract the idea, the event, the opportunity for realizing the thing you desire. When our thoughts are negative, immature, or despondent, we draw to us corresponding influences. If we are fearful or apprehensive of something disagreeable, we will attract the disagreeable. People who are always complaining, who feel that fate is against them, that the world is unkind, will invariably attract unpleasant experiences. The thought or mood of mind most helpful is the desire to make the best possible use of the power at your command. There are many who feel that sometime in the future they will have more favorable opportunities for advancement, and living in that thought, they neglect the present. They form habits of careless thinking, and the character of their thought is expressed in their environment. If you desire to develop the power of your mind, to direct your energies toward the accomplishment of something worthy, you must live in moods of cheerfulness and build elements that will give courage and resolution. The mind needs to be kept under constant control. If you have a fixed aim, proceed to do the first thing which will bring you nearer the goal. Do one thing at a time and do it well. Avoid the habit of hurry. Keep in the current of thought which will keep your body strong and vigorous. Cultivate repose. Have confidence. Keep your mind in the permanent mood of expecting success. Events and opportunities will come from making the best use of your own peculiar powers. You should feel that there is a work for you in life which no one else can do as well. Study yourself, your desires, your hopes and fears, your strength and weakness. Measure yourself and see where you are tending. Each day, by your thoughts and acts, you are weaving the web of your destiny. See to it that your mind is in touch with the highest. Be not discouraged because of the obstacles you meet. This is an evidence of progress. The obstacles do not come to you, but as you approach nearer the heights, you will have hills to climb, You will have difficulties to meet, and this is well. If you are always true to the divine leading, all that shall come to you will be fraught with blessings. The sufferings you endure will be ripening experiences which will force your mind into truer conditions. If your mind is clear, your ideals noble, and your courage unflinching, you will overcome all and realize every cherished longing. There may be times when you apparently lose much you had previously gained. You will have periods of discouragement when you will doubt the harmony and goodness of natural law. You will feel that you are left alone. The laws of the universe will seem cruel and unfeeling. Life will seem desolate. You will have no definite aim. But when the mind wanders, when you feel the destructive thought waves coming from immature and ignorant minds, take yourself in hand. Rise above the shadows. Avoid the gloom and sadness which pervades human life. Concentrate your thought on the potent forces existing both in you and the universe. You will gradually awaken to an understanding of life's deep meaning. You will know the purpose of your own existence. You will realize that you exist in a world that is governed by law. You will recognize expressions of the infinite mind in all nature. You will learn that there is an exhaustless force moving in all things, and you will discover the way to an ever-increasing happiness. You will have no anxiety for the morrow, for you will know that your days of pleasure will always continue. You will have at your command a force which is renewed and sustained by the supreme power. You will learn that this power is a reality, that it will always act in and through you to accomplish your purpose. Be persistent, keep planning and looking ahead to greater things, and move steadily on toward the accomplishment of every desire. The man who knows his true nature must recognize the fact that he is a divine being whose power extends as far as his thoughts can reach. To understand the laws and forces which govern life and to employ them wisely, to make use of our gifts for good purposes only, will result in the highest happiness. Knowledge without wisdom or power without goodness are dangerous for one to possess. The abuse of power and misapplication of knowledge are the cause of all suffering. There is no excuse for ignorance. If we only permit the divine light to shine, if we only keep the mind open to the influx of high and pure influences which come from the infinite mind, we will know the truth. We will feel the presence of the infinite within our hearts and will respond to its leadings. When the divine principles have fully awakened to self-consciousness in man, he understands his relation to the infinite and acts in accordance with the higher law. The universe is filled with life, and of this life there are myriad planes of manifestation extending beyond the capacity of the mind to fathom. As we aspire to the realization of more and more of this life, we attract elements from the unseen current of realities, which become literally a part of ourselves. We are continually growing in knowledge and wisdom. We are drawing to us finer forces which give us capacity for greater attainments. Every experience forces the mind into truer conditions, bring us in closer touch with the infinite source, gives us more courage and more patience and gentleness. Aspiration is the law of life, from the crudest forms to the highest, from the gross to the delicate. Every aspiration brings one nearer to the cherished ideal. The aspiration of the mind toward the pure, the unselfish, the beautiful will attract more and more of these qualities from the unseen. Desire for the highest and most enduring good, if sincere and persistent, will purify the heart and endow the mind with an irresistible power. Persistent desire and demand for the true and good will bring you in touch with the infinite resources of the universe. It is desire that has brought the race to the present plane of unfoldment, and desire will lead to grander achievements, to wisdom and power greater than the world has known. The inspiration which enables one to discover a principle, to invent, to receive helpful ideas, comes as the result of desire. You will have power to effect results in proportion to the amount of earnest desire and demand. The more desire you have, the more power you awaken to attract a corresponding element from the Supreme Mind. End of chapter 20. Stay right here. But before we go on to the next chapter, hit that like button. If you like what you hear and what you see, subscribe to the channel. Okay, let's flip the page to chapter 21, the highest goal. Why not always speak as though mankind were near to the realization of its cherished ideals? Thither are we led by our desires and instincts, though we may never behold all we have hoped for. Our life must be lived while we wait, and we should govern our acts as though we were always on the eve of great joy. We should endeavor to feel that whatever happens to man is that which is most required. We are taught by the failure of our noblest efforts that there is something greater to be attained. Defeat only arouses the energies within. Of this inner force, many are fully aware. A knowledge of self gives man faith in himself, for he knows in advance how events will be received by him, and he knows too that he has an immovable anchorage against which the opposing forces will beat in vain. As man becomes wise, he transforms into blessings the apparent misfortunes of life. It is the general belief that human existence is a prolonged struggle against fate, and there are certain mysterious laws of heredity and instinct which exert a relentless influence over those who have not taken hold of the ideas that lie beyond the reach of fatality. But the man who is wise may use his unfettered will to curb the blind forces and to keep back every unmerited misfortune. The highest and inmost thought governs and dominates all. If you look for nothing but evil, you will see an element of evil in every event. But if you have learned to think only of the good, you will discover that at the heart of things, truth has its dwelling. The man who lives in thought above the selfishness and vanities of everyday life will escape many unpleasant experiences which will likely befall those who have not attained such loftiness. And come success or failure, joy or sorrow, the man who is inspired by a great idea will never be left without hope and courage. When the heart is on fire with some great ambition, the trivial events pass by unnoticed, and all that transpires is made to revolve around the leading idea, causing the flame to burn the more ardently. A positive command, issued by one who has faith in himself, will compel the submission of every opposing influence. Among the forces that oppose our schemes, there may be some that are too intricate for the mind to grasp. There may be agencies that work beyond our immediate control. There may be thoughts and intentions in the minds of others, which would defeat our aims. These counter-influences at times are erroneous, but rarely irresistible. If the unfettered will works in perfect accord with the mind, if we fight on bravely against the enemy that is visible, we need have no fear of the future. Every victory gained will give us the strength to conquer the greater foe which may appear in the distance. Can it be true that fatality exists? Does some kind of predestination govern every circumstance of life? It seems to be a fact in the lives of many who are bound by a certain chain of events which are contrary to the desires of the heart. Yet if we look more closely, if we study the life of one who is thus fettered, who seems unable to escape the bondage of an adverse environment, we will find that the gloom which enwraps him is the result of his own morbid thought, that the fatality which follows him is called into existence because of corresponding defects in his character. When we meet one who is unfortunate, one who is discouraged, we invariably find that his mind dwells on the dark side of things. We find that he has always been negative, with no great ambition or hope to inspire him. Man too often submits patiently to wrongs which he has never challenged. He is often a victim of his own wavering feebleness. confidence, courage, determination. These are qualities essential to the making of any advancement. The will becomes powerful only by exercise. All the faculties of the mind should be trained to act like the soldiers of a conquering army. They must gain strength with every step of advancement and be sustained at the cost of all that opposes them. Those who desire to overcome the influence of heredity, to change their habits of life, and to create a better environment must have steadfastness of purpose and march with unwavering conviction along the path that will lead out of thraldom to the unexplored regions of truth. We should always act as though we were masters, as though all forces in the universe were waiting for the touch and command of our thoughts to obey us. But they will not come to our aid if they find not, deep down in our being, a resolute and invincible will. Power is born of the union of the forces of nature with a masterful will. The man who sees before him the winding path which leads over the hills of difficulties toward the distant summit he desires to reach, who beholds in every event a cause for rejoicing, who defies fate and meets every conflict with an unfaltering will and determined resolve, will always be ready for emergencies and will gain the victory in every struggle. Suffering, sorrow, and regrets are emotions which are caused by our faults. We murmur at the unkind fatality which compels us to suffer without any just cause. Fatality is neither just nor unjust. Men of inferior degree who will not govern their lives according to right principles must have fate pass judgment upon them. They are slaves to selfishness and passion. They are controlled by the very first thing that draws near. Hostile forces take possession of all that is negative in the character, and every enemy that gains entrance becomes a source of fatal influence. But each one has the power to master or alter within him every event of life. There are many who yield too readily to opposition. They become discouraged and absorb themselves in the idea that they are the victims of a cruel fatality. And there are others who have been taught that there is virtue in mere suffering, that pain and defeat come as their appointed portion. This renouncement is often made by the feeble who lean for support on some mythical being who they believe will finally reward them for the sacrifice they have made. It is not by weakness and abandonment, by renouncement and sorrow that men help each other, but by the strength of their life, by cheerfulness and courage. It is not our duty to weep with all who are weeping, to be discouraged when others fail. This attitude will be no help to those who suffer, will take them no nearer the heights, but will drag down our own life to their level. Let us constantly strive to acquire more power and a deeper faith in the greatness of man. Let us send out forceful suggestions to stimulate the weak, to encourage the faltering. We should keep our eyes fixed on the goal we desire to reach and move forward with assurance and earnestness, with peace and confidence. We should look fearlessly upon life. We should feel that the laws of nature are just, that the supreme power is kind, that all forces are working in unison to bring us the happiness we seek. Man should enjoy the happiness that lies in his grasp. He should not bemoan his errors or losses. Happen what may, there will always be gladness and peace for the one who goes to the refuge within. All that remains, when adventures and passions are over, is the abiding sense of the infinite. The one who has gained a deep perception of life will find joy in all things that happen. A protecting power will enfold him. His mind and heart will be alive with the flame of wisdom and love. End of chapter 21. And also, we have come to the end of the reading of the book titled The Mind's Attainment by Uriel Buchanan. Leave me your comment, let me know you were here, and I'll meet you at the next video, wherever that may be, on my channel. Be blessed.